Hey everyone, and welcome back to another industry report. This time it's going to be one that is a little bit different. You see, the Blizzard France office, which was their main big one in the EU, well, it has actually been announced that it's going to be closing. Now, this is a fairly interesting situation for me because, I actually work with that office on a fairly regular basis because my other channel is, World of Warcraft focused. And suffice to say, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to talk about. This actually has fairly major implications for the power balance between Blizzard Entertainment and Activision-Blizzard, the overall parent company. I think you're going to find a few things in this video enlightening, so of course, if you're down for more game industry news, hit that subscribe button. More than half the people who watch this channel are not subbed, so fix that problem, hit the button, and with that said, let's get into things. Now, I'll be clear, this is more of an audio experience, so feel free to listen on. The TLDR for the actual news is that the Blizzard France office, which has, it had 400 people as of the start of 2019, that it is actually being closed. Now, the situation there is that staff were actually called to an all-hands meeting, and then Bloomberg reported on it, and that's how basically everybody ended up knowing what was going on. Now, what is interesting here is the original plan was actually for this office to be closed, and then half of that office to be essentially moved over to the Activision office in London. Now, this is something that's got fairly major implications that you may not have initially thought. Now, those plans have since been delayed because of a combination of factors. Basically, it seems like pandemic and then like Brexit-related uncertainty. But what that would have meant is that these Blizzard staff would have been moving out of a unit that was solely operated by Blizzard Entertainment and moving into a combined one that, was operated by Activision-Blizzard. So, Activision, right? It would be removing that autonomy from the Blizzard side, which I think is obviously not particularly good news. Now, of course, much of the context of this goes back to 2019, where the layoffs happened, the big 800 layoffs that everyone was talking about. And at that stage, staff expected things to be pretty damn bad. I imagine a lot of them probably just wanted to, be laid off so they could get their severance and sort of get out of there and actually benefit from the French labor laws. And on that, while the French labor laws are not something that have been cited by the company as being a reason, you do have to imagine that they are part of it. I mean, if you're going to be as, cold and calculating as you want to be, and you're working out what country you want to set up your operations in, you're probably going to go to a country with less strong labor laws than France, if you are, say, an Activision-Blizzard higher-up. You can see how that would happen, right? So them moving out of France, to me, is not all that surprising. Now, this plan to actually merge things in with Activision-Blizzard and to move staff over to London, that's something that, suffice to say, people heard about that, myself included, quite some time ago. We knew this was coming. I didn't expect it to happen right now, I will admit that, but it is something that many people in the know were decently aware of. And a fun little bit of texture there is that basically, and I have to say this in a decently careful way for obvious reasons, but let's just say email signatures changed from, from being Blizzard Entertainment to being Activision Blizzard, and that is something that, it got leaks happening, right? Which is obviously, it's obvious, right? Come on. The staff at Blizzard, they're at Blizzard often because they like Blizzard, they like those games. And a lot of them are people who I would say would not have positive opinions of Activision-Blizzard. And I can definitely say, in many ways, I'm yet to meet somebody from Blizzard who's actively talked positive things about Activision-Blizzard. It's mostly, past sort of employees of the company. So it's just an interesting situation, and I'd also bring up some of the tweets of Patrick Beja. Now, Patrick, if you're in the World of Warcraft community, you'll know him from being a co-host in one of the most successful World of Warcraft podcasts, but he made a tweet thread, and I do want to be very careful here. Patrick, I think, would not like to see his words used in a sensationalized or doomsaying manner, so do keep that in mind, but he was talking about the more realistic ramifications that, yes, this quite literally is something moving from the remit of Blizzard Entertainment solely moving over to being from Activision-Blizzard, which very much directly is a loss and direct control over those operations from Blizzard Entertainment themselves. Now, that I think is fairly major because you've got to wonder, did J. Allen Brack just decide one day, oh, it's time to close the Versailles office? Did Jab just wake up and think that? Of course, the current president of Blizzard. I would say no, given the money involved in an operation like that, and where that money ultimately comes from, which probably is Activision-Blizzard. I do have to imagine that this is a part of a sort of a higher up thing. And again, it very much does seem like that while Jay was, pretty well respected in what he was doing in general at Blizzard, it does seem like he's not Mike Morhaime. He's not the founder. I have to imagine, and I think most people would expect and believe, that he's pretty much, able to be walked over by Activision Blizzard. I think that's absolutely the case. I would certainly say that is my strongly held opinion. And, I think that's a situation where this came from on high. And I think the reasons are pretty obvious. I think they see what Blizzard are doing, and I think they probably realize, well, look at all the developers that we have running Call of Duty and things like that. Those games are always coming out. They're doing fantastically. Look at Blizzard. We've got World of Warcraft bringing in a lot of money. Where the hell is Overwatch 2? That seems a bit late. What's up with all these cancelled projects? Where's Diablo 4? Why is Hearthstone not having explosive growth anymore? And they're probably thinking, all of Blizzard is being held up by a pretty small amount of the Blizzard staff, right? Because, World of Warcraft and Call of Duty are the two games that Activision Blizzard cited as like their two major things. So maybe they see that and they think, well, now it's time to streamline things. And I imagine that if they can do that in a way that will centralize more control of the operation to Activision Blizzard, then they will want to do it that way. Now, this whole thing of Activision moving in, you will see that is literally true, and that the plan was, as is reported by Bloomberg, and as people in the know, the plan was to move that over to that Activision Blizzard office. That quite literally is a change in the power balance between, the business unit, Blizzard Entertainment, and the parent company. Now, of course, you should also take into account some past things I have said, including me talking to somebody, like I mentioned this in the previous video about, Blizzard moving in, and I said that at the same time that I was discussing the tweets by Tipsout, who is a WoW Classic content creator, who he said that he was having a chat with a Blizzard developer, who of course he had to keep anonymous, but that developer did authorize him to say that Activision were pretty much moving in all regards. And, I brought that up originally because I was, confirming that I have heard the same thing. So, you've got that side of the rumor mill, and then you've got this very literal, concrete thing happening with the Versailles office going down. Now, in terms of what this actually means, well, it's something that Patrick actually brings up in his tweet thread. With Blizzard, the devs have quite a lot of control over things. I mean, as an example, Pepe, who... you probably think Pepe is, of course, the frog, if you're watching this channel, but in the World of Warcraft context, I think it was before Pepe really took off in, 2014, Pepe is this, sort of cute bird character. In World of Warcraft, where basically Pepe was actually a major point of merch for World of Warcraft. But at some point, from what I hear, the development team actually were like, no, we do not want Pepe at all. Get rid of Pepe. And that's when we then saw actually Pepe kind of disappear from the Blizzard gear store. Now, that was all a little bit weird. I have to wonder why they removed that. So that was all a little bit weird, but it just does go to show that the WoW dev team, from what we understand, really did have quite a lot of authority there. So we've got Patrick saying that, and it seems to be, something where he seemed to, I think, in his tweet thread, indicate that was maybe a good idea or something he liked about the company. I don't want to speak for him, of course, but basically the old way in Blizzard is that the developers really did have a lot of control over things. And when that moves over to Activision, then it's going to be PR having a lot of control over things. And this is something that is blindingly obvious if you've ever... this stuff's blindingly obvious if you've ever sort of worked around this stuff. There's historically always been a problem with Blizzard anyway, and this is something I should always bring up too. Old Blizzard were not particularly great. Whenever I was working with the WoW community team, and all those staff were doing their hardest, doing really great jobs, but it was so clear that they just were not given enough resources. To give you an example, I made a series of 10 videos that were posted to the official World of Warcraft YouTube page that were basically a starter guide for World of Warcraft. And obviously, I'm not going to speak any numbers here, but I will say that the initial rate that they gave me for creating those videos would have been well below minimum wage. if I was to make those videos solely myself, and certainly because we were operating with a team, a terrible, business situation. I basically said to them, look, I think the exposure here could be good. I want these videos to be on the WoW channel. That's a part of my terms. And also, I want double. And I was just barely able to get that. They couldn't actually sort of stretch it up to double the rate they initially presented. And that just shows that, old Blizzard was massively underfunding that department, because trust me, in terms of that versus the going industry rate, they were paying like, I'd say 10% of what they should have for that work. That, I mean, I obviously did accept it. But I bring this up to say that it's very funny that at the same time that that was happening, I got a deal with Activision Publishing UK's PR department through an influencer agency company to do a sponsored video highlighting the key features of World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth, which I thought was really funny because by running a World of Warcraft YouTube channel, I mean, that was a very pointless video. Right? I mean, come on. My audience are the people who are diehard into World of Warcraft. Do they need a quick 10-minute long video running them through the key features? No, they didn't, but it just does go to show that what happened there is a broad initiative must have came out from the Activision-led in London sort of PR group. They had obviously way more money, because for doing that one video, I was literally paid 10x what I was paid for doing one of the smaller WoW, the WoW videos for Blizzard themselves. Which I should mention, what I was paid by Activision would basically be what the going rate, it was actually a little bit under sort of what the going rate would be for the industry, but I was still happy enough to take it. But it just does go to show like the difference in sort of budgets and crossed wires and stuff. What I will say though is, at the time, I was really surprised Activision gave me that one bit of sponsored content, because I thought to myself, well, how the hell are they going to get ROI in this? I mean, my audience already knows all of this stuff. And then I kind of realized, well, they didn't give me this job directly. They outsourced the marketing campaign to an influencer, sponsorship agency, who then gave me the work. And it just showed that there was that lack of a more direct connection and understanding of, sort of what we were doing, because I think if they had have understood our channel better, they would have got us to do a different bit of work. So that was just a funny, strange little thing. It's sort of an anecdote that I'm bringing up just to highlight some of the bizarreness here, because I do want to be clear that, old Blizz was also really borked and weird. I mean, they did underpay people, they had all of those problems, and, the WoW sort of community team in Versailles, I think, have always been absolutely fantastic, but they've been undervalued by their bosses, and when it came to the rates that I was able to negotiate with them, it was clear that they just literally were not given the money to do things, which was very funny when at the same time, sort of the Activision side was more than happy to be throwing around regular industry rates. So that was like a weird sort of thing that was going on. So, I mean, hey, who knows, maybe if Activision, for some reason, still want to sponsor stuff on our other channel, hey, maybe the beans will be better than they were when, it was dealing with Blizzard, who apparently just didn't give their team a decent budget. It was a bit weird. I mean, actually, I would say that the budget that they gave us was basically the same that they were giving to, like, small fan sites. Well, at least the initial one they offered. And those small fan sites, I mean, I'd say that was that sort of thing of exploitation of passion, like, oh my god, I get to do stuff for Blizzard, instead of, well, we have this channel with this audience, that audience, those eyeballs, those clicks, that actually has a market value. The sort of... It was very obvious that Blizzard were still operating in their way of exploiting passion and people thinking, oh my god, I get to work with Blizzard, how cool. Because people like their IPs. And unfortunately, that's something that has led to them just being able to, I'd say, exploit a lot of workers over time. So as for all of this situation, what does this actually mean for me? Well, in 2019, my EU point of contact changed, which was a little bit sad. The new person was actually great, though. I mean, I cannot speak highly enough of the staff who actually work at the Blizzard France office. They've always been fantastic to work with, but it was just kind of weird having all of this big industry reported news happening. And then in my end, it was like, yeah, my points of contact are changing. It's obvious that, the winds are changing a bit. But now it's a situation where I've got no idea who my point of contact is going to be, right, when I'm working on any future stuff with Blizzard Entertainment. And that's a funny situation because US-based content creators are often pretty jealous of some of the EU people because we've got a pretty close, direct relationship with, with the EU people. We can get beta codes to give away. We can get, press kits and all that stuff fairly easily. And that stuff does happen in the US, but I get the impression it's a bit harder. And to be very clear, it's not because of the US community team. There are not enough people in the US community team. They got rid of people. That's not thing number one back in, of course, the big layoffs. And they did try to rehire, but they did that regular thing where what they do is they hire somebody who's got a decent enough level, and then they hire for the same role plus other duties at an associate level, which is a good way of, I guess, squeezing staff harder and getting away with paying less. Which you can see how that makes sense if you're just bean counting, right? You're just on your Excel spreadsheet trying to work out your costs and stuff. But I will say it's very obvious to anybody who looks at World of Warcraft that community team is humongously understaffed. And I've got to say, Blizzard would see fantastic dividends if they staffed up their community team. I don't think it's a lack of will or desire for any of the people who are currently working there. From what I understand, Josh, who's Lore is what he goes by in the forums. From what I understand, that guy is just holding, a mountain on his shoulders in terms of work. They need more people. And it's just that thing of all of this is indicative of the Activision-led cost-cutting and stuff that's been happening at Blizzard. I mean, I think we instantly saw a decline in how things were going. It's decently telling that, we haven't had a World of Warcraft developer Q&A since March 2019. What the hell's going on there? That's just really weird. Is certainly far behind what other live games are doing. Come on, could you imagine making World of Warcraft money and then, understaffing, underfunding that team? What sort of bonkers decision-making is going on? Personally, I will say that my suspicion is that they're very happy with the revenue that World of Warcraft is bringing in, but they view it against the overall expenses of Blizzard, not just the expenses of the World of Warcraft development team. That's my personal, headcanon in that issue. But it's something that is, it's very apparent. And they've had issues in the past, right? There was one point, there was a guy, Zarim, who was working on, he'd been pulling insane all-nighters and stuff, and this is not based on me talking to him, this is based on, public tweets and stuff, but he was pulling these, insane work hours, getting a World of Warcraft Legion class preview sort of set of blogs ready for after BlizzCon, and this is not something that I know is direct, but I knew that there was, staff being overworked, and I knew that this guy had pulled, an absolute Herculean effort to get this thing done, and then, a few days later, he posted a tweet of being checked into hospital. And I have no idea, what that is, but it seemed like there was a stress-related situation going on there. And this is just stuff that, you hear. It's really rough. So overall, look, hey, I did warn you this would be more of a personal video, more of an audio video. I feel like for the people who are interested in Activision-Blizzard and you just kind of want the off-the-cuff ramblings of somebody who works quite a bit in that sphere of the games industry, that's what my thoughts are. And, you might be wondering, why the hell are you saying any of this stuff? What if they never work with you again? If it's Activision, maybe that will be the case. I will certainly say I have been busting Blizzard's balls for years on things, right? Like in Warlords of Draenor, that was full-out assault mode. Even Legion, the expansion that everybody thought was, the second coming. I was there and, during beta and, in and around day one, criticizing core expansion features like the legendary weapon system, which people, I think, after the fact would have agreed with the issues I brought up. With Battle for Azeroth, I was going hard against their story. I was going hard against their game mechanics, and I was saying this is some of the worst World of Warcraft, just general health, right, of the game that we've seen in a long-ass time. And then with of course, the most recent expansion, I've been talking a lot about how, I think there are deep issues in terms of the systems design of the game. And through all of that stuff, and including talking about, stuff from 2019 and critical things there, they haven't stopped working with me. I've not been blacklisted or anything. I suppose it will be very telling if I go from being able to have a balanced, output when it comes to Blizzard Entertainment, but still actually have communications with them and be able to work with them. If that changes, as soon as it flips over to Activision, then hey, I think we may just know what happened. Now, you might be wondering, would I be concerned about that? And to that, I really say, no, I don't particularly think that is too concerning to me. At the end of the day, those things are all nice to haves, but we don't particularly need them. And certainly, if they were to hold back beta access or something like that, I mean, I'd be very surprised. That's not really something that's handled by the EU team as much anyway, so it would be handled by the US team, who still are Blizzard Entertainment. And if they did try to revoke, like, beta access to the next WoW expansion, I mean, they would be losing 40 million views on their shiny new expansion, and you can be pretty damn sure that's a lot of beans, right? That's a lot of beans for a group like them, I mean, man, of all those views that we drive them, you then just think, like, how many of those people are paid WoW subscribers who are kind of stayed interested, in the game and the new expansion because of the content that we do. So I'm not particularly worried about ramifications there, and if they happen, who cares? I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Look, I hope that this has given you just a bit of an overall vibe for how things are. For me, it's just a situation where the people there are almost always great, in my experience. But in the Blizzard era, they were dealing with a pretty old hat company who didn't get with the times in the way that some other companies have when it comes to, like, community and stuff like that. That was kind of like the worst of old Blizzard. They'd just be a bit glacial, a bit corporate, a bit slow to pick up on new things, stuff like that. But, the games were still the games for the most part. For me, the worry is what happens when Activision starts to take more and more control. Will there be that valuing and understanding of where community comes in for the games that Blizzard makes? I'm not particularly sure that it will be as strong when these things get moved over to Activision. And then, if the rumors are true that Activision are actually taking, more control within Blizzard, then that's not particularly great either. And we certainly have heard many, many rumors suggesting that is indeed the case. I mean, Jason Schreier's article for Bloomberg that broke this news to the world very much does say towards the end that Activision are taking more control over the whole shebang. And that is obviously worrying stuff to people who care about Blizzard for Blizzard-related reasons. Now, that said, for a lot of those people, they then look to Dreamhaven, they look to Mike Morhaime, and there is something I would also bring up. Should note, Dreamhaven was announced and stuff, like, literally as soon as Mike could after his non-compete with Blizzard went, so come to think of it, yeah, it seems like Mike actually was not wandering the wilderness trying to work out what he wants to do next. It seems like the dude loves video games, wanted to do a games company, and just had to wait for his fucking non-compete to go. That's obviously not super confirmed, but I think that's a reasonable speculation based on what's going on. Anyway, that is basically it for this video. Blizzard France is going. This is sad. It is sad for the employees who are there right now, are in limbo and don't particularly know what's going to be happening to them. It's also sad to people who, care about the Blizzard games and what Blizzard are doing, because it does essentially mean that another part of, one of the limbs, right, the limbs of Blizzard Entertainment is now being chopped off, and those same functions are moving over to Activision-Blizzard, which to most people would spell, bad news. There you go. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in general down below. That's it for me. Of course, if you're going to do one thing, hit that sub button. I can't say that every single video is going to be a overly long, rambly mess like this one, so that actually should bode well. Should mean the other ones will be better. So, that sub button certainly is appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.